In 1998, an unidentified woman's remains are found near a highway truck stop in Weatherford, Texas. It is believed that she died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but in the past 26 years, no one has come forward to claim her. Today, little has been publicized about her case, making her one of the many unidentified women whose stories aren't told. This is what we know of her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week, we are joined by Kate Roman.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
Vanessa, we have not covered the story of an unidentified woman in a little bit.
We really haven't, have we?
No. And so to recap for our listeners, who we have a lot of new listeners, so welcome. I wrote a book of poetry where half was dedicated to unidentified women and half to missing women. And in our first year, we've been using that book and the poems as a guide for most, not all, of the episodes, because there's been some...
You've written some new poetry.
Yes.
Which I think feels great for you, right?
It does. I haven't, been able to have the time or ability to kind of do that kind of creative work. So that's been, obviously I don't want to have to be writing those poems, but I'm glad that I have the time to write those.
So this one today is from the book?
This one's from the book. And so that book came out in 2018, which is now 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That is depressing. And since then, a lot of the women in the book who were unidentified have since been given their names back. They've been identified. So we've been able to cover kind of like compelling stories of how those have been solved. And I'm like so happy that we can, because we get to talk about the investigators and the scientists and the volunteers who've all been making that happen.
Yeah, it's been amazing to kind of, as we go through those poems, see that like some of them now have like this whole different story to them.
Right.
The other side of that, right?
Yeah, it's like, so we've been able to divide like between like what I knew before, what I know now, what we all know now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really great. But the case we're talking about today is one where there has not been an identification yet. So I have my fingers crossed that that's going to change soon.
Is there anything in particular that our listeners can do to help with that kind of change?
Yeah, so I think in a lot of cases, like particularly this case and some of the other ones who are still unidentified, they have not gotten a lot of attention. There hasn't been a lot of publicity about them. And I think that's one of the things that I didn't fully realize, like, way back when I started. And it's just also something that I'm reminded about now,
Mm-hmm.
is that you think when there's an unidentified person's case that will be like front page news, even in the towns where they're found.
Right. So that's been really surprising and kind of jarring for me since we've started talking about this. Like sometimes how those people just kind of like fall through the cracks.
Right. And so, yeah, this is one of those cases which has not been one of those cases that has gotten a lot of attention.
Okay.
So I think what I would say is in a lot of these, in every case, but particularly these under-recognized unidentified persons cases, sharing out information is vitally important. Like, obviously I would love if, you shared our podcast, but like, it's more important, like if you go and find, say, their unidentified persons website, like whatever it is, whatever means you feel comfortable sharing, like sharing that out to people, right?
Just creating awareness.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I think like cases like this, it will take like one person or some people to like recognize, or other people to be like, hey, I want to publicize this case too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm so shocked by it, because like you just think that like, oh, an unidentified person is found, that it would be front page news because there's like an embedded mystery there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Who is this person? Why are they there? What happened to them?
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes there's been so little information. I wonder if that's part of what's like hindering that.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like,
but still, it is kind of like human nature to want to solve a mystery.
Yeah, so like, why isn't that happening?
Right.
Like,
We are very curious beings, so.
yeah, so this is a case where it really has not stuck or landed with people who are like driven to like quote unquote solve the mystery or share it.
Right.
Yeah. in an attempt to kind of fill in the blanks about this particular woman who we're talking about today, we did do a records request, and we received back a very redacted initial report and were denied additional information about it.
So you have very little?
So we have very little information. Like, yeah, I hate when that happens. Obviously, I love when we get more thorough information, or when, agencies recognize the value of getting information out there. And I get it, because there's like some questionable practices out there, particularly in the line of work that we're doing. But
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, I just want people recognizing her and talking about her. So one huge caveat, there is really minimal information about her. So we are going to discuss what we know about her, what we don't know, and kind of also bridge into a topic, which we sometimes do here. So my other caveat before we begin, which is we are dealing with a case where the suspected cause of death is a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So as a word of caution, we're going to be mindful about that as we continue. But we will be discussing self-harm and suicide throughout this episode, so that is a huge
So if you're sensitive to that, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah, we do not want to create harm in that regard. So for this particular story, we're honing in on Texas yet again.
Well, not Texas.
It's always Texas.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like Texas is such a big state with a huge population, and
it is, but it's like all of like the really grisly stuff seems to be Texas, where like all the really weird stuff seems to be Florida.
like, what is happening?
What is happening?
So we are in Texas.
Oh, except for, what is it, Long Island?
Oh, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, we're not living on Long Island. Sorry, Long Islanders. Sorry, Texans and Florida Indians.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
We love all those places.
Yes.
We just also are aware that things happen there.
Right.
As they happen in New York.
So we're in Texas, and this time we are just west of Fort Worth, Texas, in Parker County, in a town called Weatherford. Now, Weatherford, it's a small town of just about 30,000 people. And for most people, Weatherford is just a sign you pass by as you're heading east or west along the Interstate 20. And that's the story for a lot of small towns in America after the highway systems were built. I know we have a lot of listeners from outside the United States, but actually a lot of our conversations kind of return to the U.S. highway system. So we're talking about U.S. highways.
Are we doing that again?
We are.
Oh my God, not with the highway too?
Yeah. So now I-20, to help people understand, I-20 is a pretty busy interstate. It runs all the way from Florence, South Carolina, through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and into West Texas, where it connects to Interstate 10.
Does Interstate 10 sound familiar for some reason?
It should.
It
should, yeah.
Okay.
So Interstate 10 runs into Arizona, which is where I lived.
Okay.
And I often talk about I-10. We talked about it in the documentary. Yes.
I just connected the dots on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I-10 is where this young woman, Tawny Mazzoni, she was found along I-10. She had been unidentified for many years, and her story was actually the catalyst for me to begin writing about missing and unidentified women. So that's why I-10 is something we've talked about before.
And this is I-20 and it leads...
Yeah, so I-20 in West Texas hits into I-10, and then I-10 runs into Arizona.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's the interstate system. And like I usually do, I promise I'll connect some dots here in a bit, but understanding these highways is potentially important later in this episode.
So I have to remember both.
Kind of, but I'll do the connecting of the dots for you. Okay, but for now, it's 1998, and we're in Weatherford, Texas, specifically at a Petro truck stop, which is just off the highway. And this area is really designed for truckers who are heading east-west across the southern part of the United States. And I can't promise it was exactly the same in 1998 as it is now, but basically truckers could get off the highway and fill up at this massive station. And nearby, there's a very basic motel that's clearly like just a place to rest your head, some fast food places, and that's really about it. We're not in a scenic location or anything, but there are some open areas, and I'm going to be generous and describe them as fields, and there are some trees behind these businesses.
So it's not beautiful, is what you're saying?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah, like it is not one of those picturesque truck stop locations at all. It is servicey, it is busy. There are massive trucks in and out of there. And it's here on the morning of Wednesday, October 7th, 1998, that some individuals who were unhoused and camping in these fields and wooded areas came across some human remains northeast of the truck stop. Now, one thing I can actually see from the police report information that we did get is that there is some police response that is quite quick when the call comes in about the discovery, and there are several police officers responding to the scene within minutes of each other, and a few, I'm guessing, additional backup arriving about 20 minutes later. And Vanessa, I know I sometimes jokingly say that I do hope that I'm not, say, one of the many dog walkers that finds a body. But truly, I just really want to recognize the individuals on this case and all the people who enter these jobs knowing that it is a possibility to come across a body that has been in the field for a while, right?
And although you don't want to find them as a dog walker, if you did, you would be a hero in that person's story.
Yes. But I just hope that's never the case. Now, shortly after these officers respond, a crime scene unit also arrives on scene. Okay. And what all of these individuals find is a person in some heavy brush who has been deceased for some time. Detective Horace Langford said of this find, the general consensus was that the body had been there a month or more. Now, this deceased individual is fully clothed, and nearby is a .22 caliber gun that has one expended shell. We know that from this Petro truck stop, the person's remains are taken to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy, so the neighboring county. The information that is released about this person initially is quite minimal. There are just a few short briefs in Fort Worth's newspapers. First, they state that they believe, based on the clothing as well as the hand and foot size, that this person is female. They believe that she was white, between the ages of 30 to 40, and had brown hair. It was noted that she had at some point received extensive and expensive dental work. Later, the details on this will include that she had gold foil fillings as well as porcelain veneers, and the total cost of her dental work was estimated at between $30,000 to $35,000.
Wow, that is significant.
That is significant.
Especially in 1998, too.
Yes.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that would be a lot now.
Yeah, like...
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm not carrying around that much in dental work in my
Right. So this is somebody who, are they guessing most likely had money?
Yeah, so this is kind of one of the things that is assumed, right? Is that this person was of financial means to be able to afford that at some point in her life.
Which makes this even weirder to me that she hasn't been identified.
Right.
That is like, because normally there's like all these other things that get in the way of somebody being identified.
Yeah, so the way finances intersects with this is that, you know, a lot of what it comes down to is, like, do you have the financial means to, and the ability to pursue justice independent sometimes of policing agencies?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have the ability, does your family have the ability to search for you, basically?
Right.
Financially speaking. And so, yeah, this person had
definitely
had
the means at some point.
Yes,
yeah.
Wealth. Now, in this early information release, they included that she did die of a gunshot wound to the right temple. And it's believed that this gunshot wound, like I said earlier, was self-inflicted.
How do they know in that case? Like, I've seen, like, movies where they're like, oh, there's, like, residue on the hand or blah, blah, blah. But are they doing that? Or are they just being like, there she is, it's in the right spot? And there's the weapon.
Yeah, so with this woman specifically, like, such little information has been released about her, about, like, their findings. Even, like, scanning what I can in that minimal police report, like, I can't tell exactly what led them to believe that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound versus a gun that was found next to her, right?
Right.
And so I can't say why they came to that conclusion at all.
But we're going to go with it that this is self-inflicted.
Well, yeah. So we're just going to continue in that path and provide that information simply because we have not been given or provided any other information.
Right.
Right. So I can't tell you why they came to that conclusion.
Could it definitely could be, but it's just...
Yeah.
Like,
could it be the wrong conclusion? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And this is like one of the frustrating things. So the information provided is that it's believed to be self-inflicted. So they revised her time of death slightly, changing it to 3 weeks before her body was found. So 3 to 4 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love to be able to say, like, after this, the media followed this closely, and that there was those regular updates about her case in the news, but, like, that is not what happens with her case at all. Instead, just brief bits of information about her have been added to her profiles in databases and websites over the years, but it's been pretty quiet, this case. At some point, we do know that they widened her age range. So originally they thought she was 30 to 40. Later, it was revised to be 35 to 55 years old. And they added a few other pieces of identifying information, such as that she could be between 5'3" and 5'7", and between 130 and 160 pounds.
Kind of a wide range.
Yeah, which is, again, the science on determining height and weight and race and even gender sometimes is just squishier than we think it would be, right?
Right.
Yeah. So could this person be a completely different height? It's always possible. Right. But yeah. I mean, I'm 5'6" and you're
5'1".
5'1".
So it's basically from my range of height to your range of height.
Yeah.
And 10 years on either side of me.
Yeah.
And
it's just like fascinating, right? Now, since not much is known about her, or at least publicly known, these details mostly have to do with her appearance and her clothing items in the hopes that these kinds of pieces of information might help identify her. She was wearing a blue and white windsuit with the brand label cut out. She had a white bra that also had the label removed, white or beige underwear, white ankle socks, and natural comfort white athletic shoes with teal trim in a size 7. Some of the other details that they added are likely incredibly important in terms of identifying her. So first is that she had scarring on her body that looked to be from a previous hysterectomy. And that she also may have had a mastectomy.
So this woman's been through a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we think.
Right. But between like the amount of dental work and then possibly like all these medical issues.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why we can't say for certain that she had a mastectomy or hysterectomy, I'll just say that like the estimated time of death is roughly 3 to 4 weeks before her body was found, and that September in Texas is quite warm. Right. We also know that nearby she had a large blue shoulder bag. Inside was some mineral water and what was described as very expensive beige prescription glasses.
I was going to ask that. Like, I wonder, like, if they could tell if, like, her belongings were expensive.
Right.
But
yeah,
some of them.
Yeah. So I think, like, the natural comfort athletic shoes were kind of, like, mid-range. Like, they're not particularly low cost or expensive, but they did identify her glasses as being expensive. Also, in addition, in that bag was a long brown wig. Like, her own natural hair was also brown, and it had been pulled back in a bun and secured with long bobby pins, kind of like you would do if you were regularly or recently wearing a wig. Okay. Now, specifically the bra that she was wearing was a kind that had facing on it, so it could hold prosthetic breasts. And the inventory of her body does include a note that either prosthetic breasts or implants were found.
Isn't there a big difference between prosthetic breasts and implants?
Well, sometimes, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But for clarity, like because there had been some decomposition, I'm guessing they found what could be described as implants, meaning that they originated from inside her body, or prosthetic breasts that could have been inserted into the facing of the bra and therefore on the outside of her body.
So they're essentially the same thing? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that they can't tell because of the condition of her body, making it not clear if they were inside or outside.
Okay. We really know nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So frustrating, this.
And if it was on the outside, it could have just been because she was self-conscious about the size of her chest, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean mastectomy.
Right. Yeah.
Either.
So
either way, like inside or outside, it could just be
like I wanted a
preference.
Different, breast size.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, because of these specific details, like the possibility of a hysterectomy, the possibility of a mastectomy, along with the wig and the possibility of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, has led people to try to, on their own, construct a narrative of what happened to her. So the few kinds of interactions and chats that I've seen about her case online have resolved into some people assuming that she was a cancer patient who, faced with her health issues, died from suicide.
Which definitely could happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think like there's this impulse for us as humans to try to make sense of the details that we've been given, right? Like we are, as humans, like natural storytelling creatures, right? And so we like to create narratives, and so that helps kind of make those details make sense to us, right? And I'm not saying that it's not impossible that that's correct. Very well could be. But I think sometimes what happens is we get locked into those ideas and it kind of keeps us from seeing other possibilities. It's like the possibility you brought up, like, might she have just wanted to change her chest size?
Right. So like right now we're only like concentrating on looking for this cancer patient.
Yeah, like, is she a cancer patient?
Right.
Yeah.
So then we're sifting through that instead of just maybe a woman who had enough money and wanted to have a certain shape. I mean, it sounds like she was somewhat maybe into her appearance if she had like her her cute glasses and stuff like that. So
there are other possibilities.
But then like people see a wig and then possible surgeries, so right away it's like, oh, but there are other reasons to have those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and just being a woman in that age range is hard enough anyways.
Exactly.
Your body's already freaking out and you're already trying to like look as good as possible.
Right.
So if she wanted to like zhuzh up her appearance a little, good for her.
Right? Like, it's interesting because like, now so many women I know do like extensions in their hair, right? Because they want like thicker, fuller, longer hair.
Well, you get to a certain age and your hair is not as thick as you want it, right? Like,
I do not have.
You do not have this problem. So Amy has like an abundance of hair. She has enough hair for 3 people.
Yes.
So, but I am feeling, and I know a lot of other people are telling me that they feel like their hair gets thinner in their 40s.
Yeah. So there are so many other possibilities for this woman. And I think that sometimes when we construct set narratives, that it keeps us from seeing the possibilities that are elsewhere, right? So I adore the internet sleuths who are out there keeping her story alive, but I would also say that like, sometimes like we might be overlooking potential matches or potential avenues just because we've been kind of locked into like this one possibility.
So explore some alternatives.
Yes. So it's kind of like the self-inflicted gunshot wound. Like we're going with that because that's what we've
right. And I'm thinking, as a woman with money near a truck stop, what if, like, I'm going to create another narrative right now. Like, what if she stopped for something, for gas or something, and something
happened to her,
robbed her and pulled her into the, bushes and killed her.
Right.
Like, we don't know.
Yeah. And because, the investigators have not provided much information,
we can't stick to any one thing, right?
But her case does bring up something that I do want to talk about, which is under talked about when it comes to missing and unidentified persons, which is the possibility of suicide. And so this is the section of our podcast where I'm going to talk a little bit more in the weeds about the intersection of those two things.
Can we talk a little bit about the stigma around it too?
Yes, yes.
Like, it's not, if a loved one dies of suicide, it shouldn't be a shameful thing.
Right. Because, like,
it's a disease like any other.
Exactly. And so, you know, we have been taught to, like, keep those kinds of details quiet just because, yeah, it has been stigmatized.
It has.
Right. And I do think that that stigma has also played a role in how we talk about unidentified persons cases that could involve suicide.
Right.
So to kind of, like, backtrack a little, like, we did a previous episode on this woman named Bessie Kutnick, who also went missing in Texas. And one of the things that we talked about in that case is how her case kind of allowed us to talk a little bit more about the possibilities about dementia and the safeties of individuals with dementia and, like, ways that we can use that information to make people safer, right? And in that episode, we talked about how people were, like, really, like, gung-ho about there being a perpetrator in that case.
Right. Well, there is also a stigma around dementia.
Yeah.
Which there should not be.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, we tend to publicize and talk about cases where there are perpetrators much more regularly than cases that might have involved a missing or unidentified person who's missing or unidentified through other means, right?
Through means that make us uncomfortable.
Yeah, so...
I think.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think people are still seeing depression or dementia or other things as, like, almost the person's fault.
Right.
Where if a perpetrator comes in, we know it's clearly not their fault.
Right.
Like, kind of like how I get angry about people constantly saying that teenagers are runaways. Like, we're placing that blame on them.
Right. Rather than, like, what is...
Let's just rectify the problem.
What is happening that is causing those
Let's
things to
still
happen?
look. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be back in a moment. So, to be clear, there is not a known perpetrator in the Parker County Jane Doe case, to my knowledge, right?
Okay.
Her death has always been referred to as self-inflicted gunshot wound. But, like, I found myself doing the same thing that we just did here, which is like, what is it?
Yeah.
Right? Because as I was looking at photos of this truck stop as I was preparing for today, I found myself, like, thinking, like, how did they know this was self-inflicted? Like, why would someone choose this place of all the places to spend their last moments? Why there?
Why there?
Yeah. Which is to say, like, we can all kind of fall into that thinking. I am definitely open to tons of possibilities in her case. But again, we're just going to hone in on this idea, this framework that we can provide about suicide and missing and unidentified cases, because I just think it's important to have that conversation now. Unsurprisingly, there is not a lot of focused research on this intersection of suicide and missing persons cases. So a call to our scholars in the crowd who are looking for maybe projects to work on, right? Like a deep look into this would be fantastic. One of the few studies that I could find was looking at Australians, and the demographics between Australia and the United States are deeply different, right? It does provide us some grounding to kind of have a conversation, right? So in Queensland, which was their particular area of focus, and actually where a lot of our listeners live.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Queensland.
Yeah. So they looked at a sample of 194 people who had been marked missing, but who had died through suicide, and compared this group against 7,545 other documented deaths from suicide. So are you with me so far?
Wait, so they're looking at, so there's 7,545 people, and we're looking at a sample of 195 of those.
So, yeah, so all of these individuals have documented deaths resulting from suicide.
Okay.
But 194 of them had been marked as missing first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm catching up now. Okay, so the rest were not missing. These were the missing ones.
Yeah, so there's a subset here, right?
Right.
And so when they're comparing statistically these two groups, what they found is that the means of death was statistically different in the two groups. So there is a much higher amount of deaths happening through motor vehicle exhaust gas toxicity, jumping, or drowning among those who were marked as missing first.
Okay, which makes a ton of sense, especially the jumping and drowning.
Right. So now you might be thinking, Amy, that does not include self-inflicted gunshot wounds.
Right.
And
it doesn't.
Wasn't that what happened to Parker County Jane Doe? Like, yes, you're right to question those things. But first, this state is, again, from Australia, where the gun laws are different than in the United States. So it's harder to own or obtain guns there than here.
Right.
Now, that makes it, again, less likely that guns would be used for self-harm in Australia. Now, looking at the data that we do have from the United States, again, they're not necessarily studying missing persons and unidentified persons cases, but we do know that gun deaths involving suicide in the United States outpace gun deaths involving murder in the United States.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something people should take into account also, like, when shaping gun laws? Like,
yeah. Like,
obviously, there's more of a problem than just violence against others.
Yes, it's also like what happens, when guns are available. Now, this has been tracked since the 1960s, so that is true, except for a brief few years in the 1970s. Like,
really?
Yeah, it like flipped.
That's
very
really
briefly.
shocking to me. So I've never heard this before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like a lot to process.
Yeah. Now, we know in 1998, which is the time the unidentified woman was found, gun deaths either from suicide or murder were trending down statistically just slightly. So both of them at the same time. And then that dramatically changed in the 2000s, and they just sort of started trending back up again. But even in 1988, it was self-inflicted suicide, gun deaths, outpacing
violence.
Outpacing murder, homicide. Yeah. Now, in addition, we do know that in the United States, firearms are the leading means of suicide for both men and women. And so I don't know about you, Vanessa, but I came from like the dark ages of the 90s. And when I was in high school, I clearly remember being told through my health classes that women did not use firearms for this.
Really?
Yeah.
So I was never taught that.
Yeah. So
I was never taught that. Also, I grew up in Canada.
Right.
Firearms aren't really
a
huge deal.
Yeah. So when I was in health class, I was definitely told that
women don't do that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, we do know that that's not statistically true at all. Like, men overwhelmingly use firearms, but it is currently the leading means used by women as well. So,
which, I mean, it's surprising that it's the leading for either of them for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because then we have to talk about like accessibility and
right.
Okay. Now, so my hypothesis would be that this would be true for missing and unidentified persons who died through suicide, that they would use firearms, right? But given that there was like such differences in the Australian data for means, like that might be an erroneous guess. So in answer to my own questions about this case, we have incomplete data, but it is probable that a woman in the 90s would have used a firearm for a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
I'm going to go into a really dark path here, but I'm wondering too if it's the success rate of the suicide that is bringing it to the guns being the number one. Because there's a lot of other forms of suicide that people do live through and are usually like very thankful for being saved from.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't hear of that very often with gunshot wounds.
Right.
I'm giving myself a panic attack right now, guys. Because like the thought of this is like very overwhelming, but I'm wondering if it's also partly that.
So, yes, right. One small correction.
Okay.
Because I think that we're also being, like, I'm learning a lot about the language we use around suicide.
Yeah.
So, like, as I was thinking about how to talk about this in a caring, compassionate way.
It's very hard to talk about because we're not taught how to talk about it.
No. So one of the updates in language that has changed is, like, removing the word success.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
So,
obviously. Ew.
Right? But, like...
Right. I shouldn't have said it that way at all.
No, but, like, unless we have conversations about it.
Right.
And, like, someone says, oh, hey, right? Like...
Right. But it definitely shouldn't be a
oh.
success situation. So I don't know what to replace that word with, though. Because that's how it's usually handled.
Yeah. So, like, in that case, like, death by suicide.
Carried out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Success is removed from the language. But I think it's an important conversation that we should be having.
I don't think, like I said, I don't think we're taught the right words to use. I don't think we're taught the right way to approach this subject. It makes me uncomfortable talking about it because I don't know if I'm saying the right thing.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, like, I think it's an important discussion to have.
Right. So I think, like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if our podcast can also help, like, change, like, oh, wait a minute. Because, like,
right. And I never normally would say it like that. But I was just like, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't normally talk about this at all.
Well, and plus, like, when I was looking up, like, language usage for this episode.
Okay, so you did, yeah. See, I'm blindsided here, guys. Like, I have no time to research how I should be approaching this either. So I apologize if that was, like, super insensitive.
No, I think one of the things that I came across is the use of the word success. And so there was, like, a shift in language, like, how do we change it? So you are not alone in using the word success.
Yeah, right. So, but instead of that, I should be like, but then I don't want to say failed attempt either. No, because so it's not a failure either. Like, no. Like that's something. So it's just like, so where do I go with that? Like,
so you might say, like, instead of saying, like, you would just say, like, death by suicide or death from suicide. Yeah.
But in other cases, I think it's easier possibly to save the person.
Well, yeah. And I think, like, one of the things, it's like, currently the language is, like, death by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I even have a problem with that because, like, that was, like, kind of, that's the means, right?
Yeah, I like to say died of suicide when I say it, and I don't know. I feel like by sounds like something that he did it.
Yeah, it's like, that would be used, but I think, like, even that just, like, what is actually happening is mental health related.
Right, it's not like a heart attack where it's just like a passive event, right?
So, like, the cause of death is usually something connected to mental health. Mm-hmm. Not always, but that's part of it.
Well, I think it is.
And so, like, did you
and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, we all struggle with mental health. It's just, has it gotten to this point, like.
So it's like, did you die by suicide or did you die from your mental health condition? Right?
Right.
Like, what was the actual cause of death?
Right. And I do hear more and more people saying, like, died of depression.
Yes.
Which I fully support.
Yeah.
As well.
So I think it's just like we're still in a shifting language zone. So I don't want you to feel bad about using the word.
Right. But I just don't know how to say it otherwise. Like, and I do know people who have, and I don't even know, like, do we say saved? Have been saved from them, like, from that situation. And so it's just like, right? How do we word that even?
How do we come up with a language?
Right. So it's just, I think it's an important thing. And I think it's something, like, going back to you learning about this in high school, like, and learning about, like, oh, women don't do this, or instead of maybe, like, going down to, like, ways people do this, maybe we should just be talking about language and support around it.
Right. Yeah. And I just think
less statistics and more support.
Right. This what we're talking about is understudied. So again, like, major call to scholars who study this in their field, right? So now, diving kind of a little bit away from the language you use and kind of back into the data.
Yeah, we just took a different route here for a minute. Back on track.
So, like, looking at the Australian data, we do know that those who died through suicide and were missing persons were more likely to be located in a natural outdoor location. So like Parker County Jane Doe. So again, though I personally find this truck stop unusual, it does fit those parameters since it was surrounded by fields and woods, right?
Right. And I mean, it might not be unusual. Like, it is a truck stop. We don't know what she was leaving from or what she's on her way to. Like, we don't know her situation at all. So
Yeah. Now, other research from this Australian study shows that this group of individuals was more likely to have lived with someone at the time of death, but were less likely to have been physically ill. Their research shows that missing persons with suicidal intention were more likely to be males ages 41 to 65 who were single and without children.
See, and I think this is a big thing too in our society where we obviously put this thing of like, oh, well, that person was sick, so they wanted to end things.
Yeah, so like that's kind of how they've been filling in this narrative for this unidentified woman is that.
But just because you have an illness doesn't mean you don't want to be here.
Exactly. So they've filled in the gaps for her, including this, but based on the research that we have from Australia, which again is not the US in terms of demographics and what information we have, that might not be the case. But it's important to have those kinds of conversations. Now, these individuals are also more likely to have communicated their intent, which I don't find unusual here. If you track kind of like how this might play out, like if they communicate their distress in a note or other form of communications, it's likely, yes, that their loved one is going to call the police and report them missing and have them being looked out for. And that's how they're marked as a missing person.
So like in the case of like Parker County Jane Doe, did someone somewhere get a note? Did someone somewhere get a phone call and then just kind of like disregard that?
Well, so what we know is like, you know, the attempts to identify her locally have not panned out, I don't think.
Okay.
So I don't think that they think she's...
So there's like a weird amount of anger around topics like this too.
Yeah.
Where people are like, oh, well, kind of like the attitude people have towards runaways. Like, oh, this is something they're choosing.
Right.
So I'm not going to invest any time or emotion into this.
Yeah. So in this case, you know...
But we don't know anything.
We don't know anything about this woman, right? So now why does this all matter to this specific case or cases in general? And it's really like what I said about the importance of research and like when we talked about research and dementia, right? Like if we had a better understanding of what might happen to someone who is missing, who has dementia, and we did more research about it, the better training we can provide to law enforcement so that they can respond in different ways to cases of people, say, with dementia, right? The same thing can be true for the cases of people who there is an idea that like suicide intent might be present or someone who might have died from a suicide, right?
Right. I mean, in either way, it should be similar approaches where we're trying to locate somebody who might be in like a confused state.
Right. So, so if we know, for instance, like one of the things that we talked about with dementia is the behavioral patterns of people who have dementia who go missing are different from someone who is missing under different circumstances.
Right.
And so if we can provide that information to police, it might also just help make people safer. If there are some pieces of information that we can learn through research about people who have suicidal intent, they are missing, what are some pieces of information we can use statistically to like find them, locate them, etc. Or what are the pieces of information that we can use just not even in law enforcement, that us just everyday people who have loved ones in our lives who might be going through something. What kinds of information can we use to make them safer, right?
Right.
So when we look at Parker County Jane Doe's case, right, we have an unidentified person. If we had solid research based in the United States about self-inflicted gunshot wounds that results in a missing persons or unidentified case, maybe some of that demographic information could be used to help push forward new avenues of investigation for her. Right? Now, I'm about to switch gears a little bit away from that topic, but to me, it's hard to believe that 1998 was 26 years ago.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Like I had to math that several times and I was like...
No, it's 16 years, right? No.
It's like 10.
Yeah.
But that is now how long she has been unidentified, 26 years. So during that time, she has not become one of those kind of lightning rod cases that is posted in the news or memorialized on the date her body was discovered. So we're not getting that kind of coverage of her. At some point, investigators did get a clay bust made of her, and we'll include an image of this in our social media postings. And to be fair, this seems much better done than some of the renderings we've seen. So, like, I want to give a shout out to whoever the artist was.
And so they did this based on her.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so when looking at this image, like, one of the important things to note is they actually did use the wig.
Her wig.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As well as the glasses, her eyeglasses. So those are
That's a really great way to do it, because
yeah,
like if somebody was used to seeing that hair and those glasses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully that helps. So like looking at this rendering with like that specific hair, those glasses, right? Now, despite that, it's clear that the investigation into her identity does continue. So even though it's not making the media, it's happening. Now, whether it's because of the Weatherford Police Department or by like a handful of volunteers who are just like carrying her in their hearts and caring about her, like I'm not sure. But what I do know is that the exclusion list for her is quite long. Now, when I said exclusion list to my husband, he was like, what is that? And I was like, you have lived with me this long and you don't know?
Wouldn't that be just the list of people that they're excluding?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. I was like,
Huh.
Not on your game today.
Yeah.
Okay, so Parker County Jane Doe for everyone else. So she does have a profile on the National Missing and Unidentified Person Systems database. Like she's in there. And users with specific accounts can see the list of individuals who have been compared to Parker County Jane Doe to see if they are matches. And when there is not a match, they are marked as exclusions. So investigators don't have to keep revisiting those individuals when they're suggested as matches, right? Now, that's really would be where this case is at the moment, but I actually feel like it would be remiss of me not to talk about some more recent buzz with her case. So, in January of this year, so 2024, a missing persons case was added to this database, NamUs. Her name is Nellie Red Gillespie, and she was 61 years old when she went missing from Jackson, Mississippi, and she was last heard from on August 15th of 1998.
August 15th, and our woman was found
October 7th.
So that puts us in the 3-week category. So I did get a little sneak peek of this on your Facebook. So I think I know where you're going with it.
Right.
So I'll let you continue.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I cannot keep quiet when I'm doing research.
Right. And I did see it and I did want to comment, but then I didn't know if it was about this case. And then I was trying to be like, I
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was about this case. Now, there are a few reasons why I'm bringing up Nellie. And the first is that her NamUs profile in the images section, they actually included a photo of the bust that was made for Parker County Jane Doe. And I can't find any explanation for why this was there, but it does bring up whether it was added because they thought Parker County Jane Doe might have been Nellie.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, the side-by-side comparison like between the two is striking, particularly when looking at the hairstyle and the glasses.
Yeah. So that's the photo that I saw on your Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And the glasses and hair look identical.
Exactly.
And the face actually is pretty well done. Like, it looks like it could be her.
Yeah.
Which some of the ones we've seen,
You're like,
good effort, but
yeah.
I've never seen a human who looks like this.
Right. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that Parker County Jane Doe is Nellie Gillespie, because honestly, our whole track on here is like we wait for investigators to confirm or deny their findings in cases like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to bring up and talk about Nellie because even if she's not Parker County Jane Doe, I really want to highlight who she was and her case because I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So Nellie was from, as I said, Jackson, Mississippi, and she earned her bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Southern Mississippi before completing a 3-year program at the National Association of College and University Business Officers Institute.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, in Lexington, Kentucky. And so during her life, she continued to add to her skills and qualifications, continuing to attend seminars in like auditing and banking and finance, right?
So she's a pretty successful woman.
Yes.
Yes.
So because of this, she was actually appointed by Mississippi Governor Ray Mabus to the Mississippi Health and Human Services Block Grant Advisory Board.
Wow. She's not in any short things, is she?
No.
No.
And she also worked at Jackson State University as an internal auditor. And it's actually because of her skills and oversight that in 1988, Nellie actually stopped the university's transportation director from embezzling money through a check cashing scheme.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, Nellie is like this financial oversight badass, is what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh. So she actually is like a crime fighter herself?
Yeah. Like, she was like, she's like noticed discrepancies and like tracked down information, like reported it. Like, yeah, she was like not on my watch, I think. In addition to that, Nellie was like deeply committed to volunteer work within the Jackson community. And so much of the news coverage about her is documenting her various charitable activities throughout the years. It's like so many photos of her in the local papers, like being part of like committees and boards and like just doing stuff for her community. Now, according to the information we have about her, Nellie's son last heard from her on August 15th when she told him that she intended to travel from Jackson, Mississippi to Arizona.
Would that be on the I-20?
Yeah, so we're going to swing back to that information. Good job in remembering that. So, again, the highway along which Parker County Jane Doe was found travels through Mississippi, specifically through Jackson, Mississippi, before continuing through Louisiana into Texas and then connecting to the I-10 that leads to Arizona. I'm not saying that Parker County Jane Doe is Nellie, but when considering the location, the general appearance of both women, and the time frame of the last time Nellie was heard from, and the potential date of death for Parker County Jane Doe, now, a lot of those details do match up, so I can see why she was suggested as a match.
Right. It seems like a pretty good match, and I hope that. So, while there isn't much effort in locating the identity of Parker County Jane Doe, it seems like there is quite a bit of care and effort in locating Nellie.
Well,
is there? Or
no, so like
there's not.
Well,
even with all of this, like all of her credentials and like everything.
Yeah, it is actually pretty unusual. So like in my kind of digging, I'm seeing a lot about Nellie as a person and how she was in part of her community. I'm not seeing anything really about a disappearance. So,
really?
Yeah, so she wasn't added to NamUs until this year. I'm not sure what the lag time, why a 26-year lag time, or what is going on with her case. So, yeah, but she was added in January and then removed from NamUs a month later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So usually what happens when there is a removal is that the case has been solved.
Right.
That's not always the case, but that's usually why they're taken down. Now, Parker County Jane Doe profile is still up.
So if there's a match, can we like revisit this as like a follow-up episode?
Well, yeah. So I think like to me, this is one thing. So like Parker County Jane Doe matters whether or not she's Nellie.
Right.
Right.
Oh no, she does, but
yeah.
we are treating it like two separate people, but like if the two happen to be
a match. So yeah, so basically if there are any developments in Nellie's case or any developments in Parker County Jane Doe's case, we'd absolutely do an update. Am I hoping that they are the same person and this has been, come to some sort of somewhat resolution? Absolutely. But yeah, so whether or not there's developments in either case.
Right. And just on the simplest terms, I just think it would be better that they're the same person and that it's not two people.
Right.
Just because then it's two more unsolved cases. Like we will be solving two with this one. Like, I don't know. And I'm also very curious now about Nellie's dental and health history.
Right. Which is like definitely the small amount of chatter that's happening online definitely is like, what do we know about Nellie's health? Right. Yeah, it doesn't match up with our assumptions and our ideas of what happened to Parker County Jane Doe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think what I've always said about missing persons cases and unidentified cases is like you want them to be that puzzle piece where it's just like, click, right? Like they fit together, everything works, but very often that they're
Right.
not. So whatever the resolution is for either of them, I hope that in the future that we can talk and update about both of their cases.
Or one or the other.
Or one or the other.
Depending on what happens.
Whatever happens, right? So I do know, though, that Parker County Jane Doe's profile is still up on NamUs.
Okay.
There's a lot of question about whether or not it had been taken down, but it is still there and available. Now, what I can say, though, is that Parker County Jane Doe was buried at Greenwood Cemetery in Weatherford, and there's a stone that simply reads Jane Doe, along with the month and the year that she was found. And I don't know if I personally will get out to Weatherford, Texas, because I don't know where my life journey will take me. But if you are near there, please consider paying your respects to her at Greenwood. And I just want the world to know that people are thinking about her.
We're now going to listen to Amy's poem, Magnetic Declination, read by Kate Roman. Kate is a teenage actor, dancer, and singer from Toronto, Canada, who's been performing on the stage and screen since age 4. She is a highly skilled, technically trained dancer in 7 genres. Some of her credits include a leading role as Ariana in The Next Step, Season 9, Netflix films 13, the musical, and Feel the Beat, Amelia Parker, The Parker Andersons, Charlotte Cardin's Sad Girl music video, The Big Fun Crafty Show, and Gerry D's Kids That Are Amazing at Stuff. Her musical theater experience includes community productions of The Lion King and Aladdin. Awards include Joey Award winner for Best Actress and Young Artist Award nomination for the short film Butterfly. Kate understands the importance of giving back by mentoring young girls in the arts and in life to ensure a balance in both physical and mental health by promoting a positive outlook and self-care in what can be a challenging time growing up.
Magnetic Declination. Unidentified woman discovered October 7, 1998 in Weatherford, Texas. The migration of birds is elemental. Pieces of magnetite lodged against vessels. And as rain hauls across the sky, the red tower lights draw them until it is bone against metal. Before my skin was stitched closed, my body had wings. Now, there is nothing magnetic to pull my fingers across the humid ground. Loose strands of thread collapsed against ribs. My lips and lungs no longer believe in dawn or feast, and I navigate my body across grass, the prick of needle through fold of arm, and as birds fall in death, I find fire, their feathers a pulse against cracked skin.
For more information about our show or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcasts.com. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.